Dear friends, we just wanted to make sure that you aren't worried about what's going on. You get to see in different major cities throughout America the resist. Remember, that's an insurrection. And the reason it's an insurrection is because for domestic and non-domestic enemies paid these people $7,800 per person to go there. They provided them with buses. They provided them with everything. These were paid for by George Soros. The Chinese got the buses, and an Arab company also put up money for it. So this is truly an insurrection, and it needs to be stopped. And what's really great is when they interviewed the people who had signs, the people didn't even know what the signs meant. Okay? That's proof that those signs were given to them. They don't even know what the sign, they were asked, what is that word? And the guy said, I don't know. Did you make the sign? Of course I made it. Oh, you made it, but you don't know. Okay, so now I'm reading. I didn't even get into Breitbart yet. Immediately got in. First thing it says, China cuts off rare earth mineral exports to U.S. Too bad, because we found some of the largest lithium deposits from Arkansas all the way to Oklahoma. We have more lithium than will ever be needed. And remember, batteries with lithium and rare earth minerals are only going to be in and for about 2 more years. And then we're going to go to hydrogen. And anybody knows that because we've already broke the back of the car companies with Biden's attack on them, which was the EV, the electric vehicle mandate, all of which is completely impossible, can't happen, and we don't have enough electricity to charge nothing but EV. And every bus they make, every EV military vehicle they make, they tried everything. It doesn't work. It just simply doesn't work. So forget that. We don't need that. And you see, China went out with the Belt and Road Initiative and basically went and bought up every single rare earth they could mineral throughout the world, right? And by the way, it's not rare earth minerals that are in Ukraine. Those are others that are not called rare earth minerals. And not only that, there's no proof that it's there. So don't expect that to happen. But we also know that the silica and the lithium and the other rare earth minerals in North Carolina and all on the East Coast, which have been protected for all this time, they will all be dug up. So you who are living there and you're getting the fires and the floods and the fake storms that wipe you out, that's on purpose. Just notice, they've already passed new laws that no one in North Carolina where they were affected by floods by the rivers, they can't live by the rivers now. So what does that mean? That means they're going to be dumping massive amounts of toxic material from digging up rare earth minerals. We don't need rare earth minerals. If you haven't noticed on the internet, there's 20 different types of hydrogen vehicles. We told you about this, 10 years ago? We showed you where you could buy a kit, put it on your car, and you would have 10 times better gas mileage, and you could do that yourself. You just have to drill 2 holes and mount it into your car, electrolysis. So every once in a while you put about 1/4 of a gallon of water in there, and that'll last you like a month as it turns it into hydrogen to inject it through a pinched plasma, by the way. For those of you who know that I'm obsessed with plasma, please remember, we told you about ways you could put plasma in your car, in any internal combustion engine. Okay? We've also shown you where you can buy a Searle generator. Of course, you can't buy them now, as we told you when it happened. Or the water generators from Canada. We got our name on the list immediately, and now those people have disappeared. I don't even know if they're alive. That's what happens to people who invent things that stand against the vested interests of petroleum, of cars, and all of these different things. So let's go back to tariffs. First off, please remember that I told all of you, everyone out there should have heard me say that within 2 months of this deadline of tariffs, or the starting of the new tariffs, the new golden age, April the 2nd, within 2 months, every single country in the world will go to a zero tariff with us, and we will go to a zero tariff with them. And as I explained last time, it was Allen Dulles. Remember, Allen Dulles and his brother were 2 of the most corrupt people in the world during World War II. They They're monsters, okay? And so what they did is they set all this up. They had us, Alan Dulles, told foreign countries who were our enemies to charge us a tariff so we wouldn't ship stuff to them, okay? So this was a plan a long time ago to literally destabilize America, and it has. Folks, there is no America. It's possible Trump will be able to bring it back, but just look around. We do not have an active Constitution. We do not have a Supreme Court that supports the Constitution. We sure as heck don't have a House of Representatives or a Senate that supports the Constitution. There are many anti-constitutional laws that are on the books which are treasonous. Nothing happens. We can't see a single person arrested out of the Department of Justice, though Trump has promised all these things. He's got the big long list. So I'm still going to have to see some action. Now, we knew what would happen with tariffs because we saw it in his first administration, didn't we? He put the tariffs on, and bingo bango, we had the best economy we've had in a long time, maybe forever in America. And so that's what's going to happen now. Within 2 months, every single country will bow to us, and then you get to see right now everyone attacking with their best ammo. Let's remember, the Houthis, after Trump blew the snot out of them, they took their last missile, which of course was directly from Iran, and shot it at Israel. Now, have any Houthi missiles from Yemen hit Israel? No. Have any Iranian missiles or drones, which also from Lebanon, Syria, or Palestine, have they actually done any damage? I haven't seen anybody that was killed or anything blown up in Israel. Okay, so I don't believe all that. I don't believe there were 400 drones launched that took hours to get to Israel, and then Iran thought that they wouldn't be shot out of the air by accelerated particle beams, or what people call DEWs, directed energy weapons. Those have been up in the sky since I was in the NSA in the 70s, okay? We can melt a tank down into a puddle of metal from one of those, and there's lots of them. So there's no such thing as that we can't take out these pathetic little enemies, like in Yemen. The only reason that Yemen became what it was is because Obama bombed them continuously for 8 years. Somalia, everywhere. The 7 countries that didn't have a central bank were bombed for 8 years by Obama. Gaddafi was killed. The gold was stolen, on and on and on. Hillary Clinton gave Stinger missiles so that they could be used against us, on and on and on. The corruption, if you can't arrest some of these people, it's just not going to work out for anybody, okay? Because we are at the crux. This is it. This is the focal point. If we can't get by this, if we can't reinstate the Constitution, if we can't reinstate law and order, then we don't have a country. We lost our country. And if I'm correct, that we have 70 to 80 million invaders in this country who are stealing more money from us than citizens get. Okay? If we can't stop that, that's it. We're done. We're over. Okay? So and this is also true with the sun. The sun now, it's just been found out that the sun, the indicators for the next which I had even said is very possible. You hear me talk a lot about Maunder minimums. Well, we're going to have a new minimum. The new minimum would be at the end of this solar cycle 25. And people had said it was going to be a grand minimum. Why? Because we're on the cycle that created the Maunder cycle, and it's the time. And we've already entered into a mini ice age because of the collapse of the ocean currents and the weather changes that have accompanied solar effects and solar forcing on the Earth. Okay? Has nothing to do with carbon dioxide. These people, that's just, don't even get me started on that. Okay, so now what's going to happen in terms of China? Here's what I suggest to you, Mr. President. Exactly what you did. Continue, and I'm going to repeat this. I said it last time we spoke to y'all, that we already had, what was it? China had, I think, 37%. 67%, and then they added 34%, which took it to 101% tariff. In other words, we'd have to pay double for any vehicle going over there. Someone would have to pay. It's impossible. We can't sell anything in China, and that's always been the case. But the deal is, no one has ever had an effective deal with China where they didn't cheat them, lie to them, and manipulate them, and in some cases poison their family members and manipulate them for the rest of their life by giving them doses of the antidote. This is common in China, okay? So what I'm saying is, what needs to happen? They went to 101, so Trump said, okay, I'm going to raise ours. He went with, 34 or something. Now he's going to raise it another amount. Mr. Trump, what are you doing? Raise it to the same tariff they set up. You will collapse them within 6 months. First off, there is a very real possibility. I give it a 50% possibility right now, even if it wasn't for the tariffs, because China's GDP dropped 65% in the last 2 years. That means they're bankrupt. They're beyond bankrupt. They may not be salvageable. So when you hear that China's going to take over America, no, we may take over China because their entire communist plan cannot absorb capitalism. That's a communist capitalism is nothing more than a economic fascism.
Thank you for giving me the microphone. I just want to say, and that'll kill off China, but let's do a double tap. And what that means is now we're going to say to any country that if you do business with China, we won't be able to honor the 0% tariff that we agreed on. China's done.
He did the same thing with the people saying, oh, don't worry, we're going to crash the U.S. currency with the BRICS. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I am the only person that I've ever heard say that's complete BS. And the reason I explained why it was BS is still the reason it's still BS, but it's even better now because Trump said, if I hear another country mention the word BRICS, you go to 100% tariffs.
Woo!
That collapses. Look at the tariffs. We are subsidizing almost every nation on the face of the earth. And if there are enemies, we really subsidize them. Look at the money we've given to Iran. I can't remember the amounts. It's untold billions of. We gave them money for those missiles. Plus, we know where their missiles are. We know exactly where the missiles are that they show you the pictures of underground. Bomb it. Now. If a country threatens American life, and Iran has said they're going to take one of our islands, and they're going basically by force, in other words, they've already declared war on us, then as a police action to stop that from happening before we go to war, we need to bomb Iran's missile holdings.
Tucker Carlson says that we can't do the bombing right now. He's come out and made that statement.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson, CIA, and Iran is where there's so many CIA agents you can't count them all. Okay, so no, we have to go to war, a police action with Iran. Why? Because they've threatened us, and every time any country threatens us, and they like North Korea, if we were Japan, I would blow the snot out of North Korea. Why? They've launched ICBMs right over the top of Japan. No one knew where those were going to land. No one knew whether those were actually loaded. So, China attacking Taiwan. You know how many times China has done war efforts that went right up to the shore of Taiwan? Probably in the last few years, 20, 30 times. So we have to now take a stand. But until Trump first off gets the economy, because what happened is this. In the past, you might not know this because this isn't taught in the history books, because we have a book called Truth History. All the other histories are lie histories. They're written by Brits usually. And so Will Durant, Ariel Durant, those histories, those are all scrubbed clean of all the crimes of the Brits. Okay, so what we need to do is get the economy online, because we went from having nations or cultures that had priests at the head of it. So if you go back thousands of years, all those cultures had priests or priestesses. If you go way back, they were all priestesses. And they were able to contact the divine and tell their people when to plant, when to harvest, when to have babies, when to do this and when to do that, directly connected to the forces of nature. Later, it became priest kings. Now remember, all money started in temples, temple coins, and using temples. For instance, the first bank in Vienna was the Banco family. That's where we get the word bank, B-A-N-C-O. They were in they were in the square there in Venice, St. Mark's, I think it is. Anyway, inside of the largest cathedral in Venice, that's where the bank was. They only later moved it over to away from the cathedrals because the church controlled that. So you had priests, kings. Oh, and then you had priests who started controlling economy with coins, with credit, with loans. And where did they store the grain in the old days? Where did they store the things that would keep them alive? In the temples. All Greek temples had a place to keep the excess harvest. And the priests were in charge of that. And then what happened? And then we went to the crazy, stupid idea of, and I'll try not to be cruel, but there's no way to do this without being cruel. Okay, the most vicious warriors of all times were the Vikings. No one ever conquered the Vikings. They conquered every nation they ever went to. And they infiltrated into every bloodline in Europe, especially Northern Europe, okay? So what we're talking about is the kings then became warriors. And they weren't smart. And they couldn't read. And they only, literally in the old days, you sent out your king to fight the other king, and whoever won, that's it. Then the king gets both sides. So that's the cruel, animalistic tendencies that we have arisen out of. And so then we get monarchs who say they have the divine right of king. Do you think King Charles, one of the most evil and disgusting and foul people on the face of the earth, has a divine connection to God? Well, you'd be a fool if you did. No such thing. Never has been such a thing. Okay? The last initiate on a throne in Europe was Charles IV. And he built a beautiful Grail castle, and he did everything that was so beautiful. It showed that he really was connected. So now what do we have? We don't have monarchies so much anymore. We have black monarchies, which then became part of the Knights of Malta, which are the insider trading groups for the whole world, both in Britain and through the Vatican. So then we now have a King Charles who lies and says that he has his whole entire worth is $400 million. One of his castles is worth $400 million. He's worth probably $5 trillion. We heard him say that he had $5 trillion when he was demanding that the world put up $5 trillion because he has $5 trillion, and it's going to take all his money and all the world's money. They have to match the money he says he's giving for climate control. Now tell me, has anyone out there, please, if you have, please let me know of anything that has been done with the trillions of dollars already for climate control, carbon control, carbon footprint. Please show me anything that's been done that has had any effect on the weather whatsoever. There's no such thing. And if a human thinks that, then they're stupid. They shouldn't be called a human. They're like an animal human because they don't have logic. They're like an AOC. Remember, she is a Muslim. She was trained by the Young Turk, by Cenk Uygur. Okay? He is a Muslim terrorist. And she's going to run against Chuck Schumer, and she wants to be the head of the Senate. When they asked her what are the three branches of the government, she said the Senate, the House, and the executive, the president. She's such an idiot. This is what we have going on now. Our leaders are now the most depraved, demonically possessed people in every country. And again, if you can name, please give me the name of any world leader that is spiritual, connected to God, and able to get direct transmissions from heaven to help his people. Now, Chinese would say that they have that. The Japanese would say they have that, the Sun King. No. Show me any evidence. There's no evidence. Every one of these leaders Power corrupts, total power corrupts totally. Well, that's what we got here. We are in economic fascism because we went from priest kings to businessmen, bankers, and brokers. That's who rules the world. Bankers, brokers, and businessmen. Do they have a connection with the divine? Ha! They have a connection with the demons of the world, with the subnatural. They literally foment war. They're murderers. Okay? Most bankers, big bankers, are sheer murderers. And they know it, and they keep people in economic slavery. So if we don't take serious action to start putting these people in jail, what we're going to see is, as we saw this weekend, lots and lots of people come out and say, resist, dump Trump. Basically, they're saying, let's have an insurrection. Let's literally have an illegal insurrection in America. And these are the people who believed it when their evil ones got put in the White House, either party. But they won't believe it when somebody who actually in his first term did some good things for America when he got elected, even though the election machines are still corrupt as they can possibly be.
Yeah, and if you look out in the protesting audience, you could see this from the very beginning. They're all these older people, white people. It looks like they emptied the nursing homes. And you told me that they were paid pretty handsomely to do this. But aren't they going to be in a world of shock when they're arrested for what would the charge be? I don't want to guess. What would that be? Insurrection.
And by the way, they went back and they did it this time because they had done it a couple times before where they literally go in because anybody can buy information that is stolen from you from your phone or you being on the internet. So you can go in, and we showed you this years ago how you can go in and do this. And you can buy this information and you can say, give me the telephone numbers of everyone that was on the Washington Square for the new insurrection against Trump. Compare them to other places, and what you'll find is they're the same people. Now, this wasn't this weekend, but before. So $7,800 plus all expenses, food, your signs are made for you, transportation, everything else. And then you're on the list, and so you can be invited. So people have gone in and found this out, and they find that these people are all paid insurrectionists. Now, if that isn't an attempt to overthrow our government, there's never been one, okay? So, you should have some optimism. And even though it is possible, because I've just finished reading 3 other books that use the yugas from ancient India to project when we're going to have a big solar event, and they project it down to, or in the future, to October 8th, 2047, that is the day, literally the day. And now we just hear from Ben Davidson from Space Weather Watch or Suspicious Observers that the statistics show that, yes, if you go to the midpoint of the next solar cycle 26, and you go to the height, to the maximum, 2040. And so Ben has now said that he's projecting between 2040 and 2045. That's when we're going to see the biggest activity we've ever seen in recorded human history. Except some of these things are in history because we can find buildings that were burnt up, like in Egypt. I mean, literally one side, the sun-facing side of a building, burnt. The stone is burnt. This has happened numerous times before in history. So don't get worried about this. There's always a remnant. And even if you don't you're part of the remnant, I'm not sure I'd want to be part of the remnant. I'll be happy to go to heaven, wait a minute, and then get things more organized down here and get started again. For instance, does our economy need to collapse? Yes. Now, you might not like to hear me say that, but I've told you from the beginning that the New York Stock Exchange and all stock markets are all corrupt, every single one of them. There's no such thing as an honest stock market in any country. No. And there's no such thing as an honest central bank. No. And there's no such thing as the U.S. Federal Reserve. No such thing. That is a British, you might as well say British Federal Reserve that controls the U.S. 12 and then the 13th one, central banks. And as I pointed out to you before, years before, that the time would come when Jerome Powell orders the central banks to sell their assets. 1/3 of the assets in all those central banks are bad, bundled mortgages that were miscalculated to be good mortgages. They're bad mortgages. Now, somebody might say, well, wait a second. Wait, how's that going to benefit them? Well, here's how it benefits. Every bank wants you to go belly up on your house. They keep all the money. They didn't do any of the work because they let somebody else service the contract, to service the mortgage.
Right.
They get it back in the end because it goes through MERS, and MERS is now all mortgages in America. I calculated this once. It's like $104 quadrillion in personal real estate in America that is on the stock market. That all goes to seed and company if the stock market crashes.
CEDE.
CEDE. Because the stock market was set up by criminals who said that the owners of it cannot take a fall. So if it collapses, and they can collapse it at any time, the owners, who are they? Oh, it was ICE. Now it's the Brits. They can collapse our New York Stock Exchange at any time they want through Fidelity, high frequency trading, and the $11 trillion. Nobody ask anybody, did you sell your stock? Well, how did it crash? How did the value go down? Because the central banks poured it into the stock market, got the high price. When the price dropped, Vanguard buys it down at the lowest point, and so that will probably be, you give it a month, 6 weeks, and then you're going to see it go to the lowest point that it's going to go, then it's going to bounce back up. But at that low point, Vanguard is going to buy all those mortgages. Why? Because we've already seen them doing that. They're trying to steal every single mortgage and every property in America. This is what they do. Vanguard rules and owns America. It's as simple as that. State Street, Vanguard, the banks, and when I say hedge funds, look at Jerome Powell. He just got through saying he needs $1 trillion to bail out the hedge funds who just lost $11 trillion on the stock market when he dadgum well knows he created that.
So the stock market and everything collapsing, and the panicans, that's the new word of the day, panicans, are getting their panties in a wad. And that's the definition, really, of people who are panicking. But as that's happening, the average person is moving their monies into treasuries. And this is good because that puts more money in the treasury, which is going to force Powell's hand to lower interest rates.
And helping the market crash, and you'd lose. And so don't.
What, in treasuries?
No, everyone who's got their money in 401ks,
Oh, yeah.
they're trying to get you to pull it out now. So you have to pay who? Who do you pay? Yeah, you pay brokers when you pull that money out, right? So, folks, if you think that all those paid war criminals, insurrectionists who came out this weekend, should convince you that what you can see with your own eyes is happening, which is those who are vested and in power in D.C. are all crumbling. I don't know a single. Well, there's still a few I haven't talked about, but everything's crumbling, okay? And we have to wait. We have to wait and see whether or not Trump can literally, like he did with Zuckerberg, call him in and say, yeah, you ripped me off in the last election, your $400 million that you gave to the Democrats so that they could stuff ballot boxes. Give me $100 million now, or you can't leave my Mar-a-Lago. So he did, gave him $100 million. That's what he's going to do with everybody. And that's why 50 countries, he says, and I guarantee you it's more, 50 countries have already called up and said, oh, no, we want to completely negotiate and we will go to zero. Basically, no tariffs.
But not China.
Not China, because China is insane. And they think the capitalism can be won by force, by simply killing their enemies, writing bad contracts, and reneging on every deal and lying. That's what China has done for their entire history. So why would you expect anything else? And this Mark Carney up in Canada, well, look what happened to Mr. Ford in Ontario, who said he was going to go toe-to-toe with Trump. He lasted, as I predicted, he won't last a week. He lasted 2 days. He now says, and he can't, he wants to go zero. He doesn't get to. He's in Ontario. He's not the head of Canada. But this is the insanity going on now. So Mark Carney is going to face this type of resistance in their own country, in his own. First off, he's a Brit.
Maybe Ontario will be the 51st state.
Easily. And them saying they won't come over here for vacation and this and that and this and that. No. Didn't you see the exodus of Canadians coming to America as soon as Trump got elected? Did no one notice that? Did no one notice that when Trudeau got kicked out? What was that about? They've been trying to kick Trudeau out the entire time. Trump gets elected, Trudeau's gone. They had to put a stronger person in there who, in fact, is going to be exactly like Starmer. Now, when Starmer says, the Prime Minister of England, that they got a better deal than the EU, by the way, please remember the head of the EU, I won't even say her name because she is literally one of the worst fascists on the face of the earth. She said she would fight this to the death.
Yes.
She's now gone to zero tariffs.
On industrial stuff.
Well, it doesn't matter. It will all go to zero.
I know, but she had to make a point of it.
Let's remember that all the cars coming out of Europe are all frozen right now.
Mm-hmm.
There ain't a car coming out of Europe today. Not a one. And there ain't a car coming out of China. And there ain't a car coming out of nowhere.
Ford here in Detroit has got headlines that business has never been better.
And because we've smashed the EV nonsense of the Green New Deal, AOC insanity, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, that's who I'm talking about. She did not write the Green New Deal. What's his name? Ulrich wrote it, okay? He is... if you know who Manzini is, he created all the young Italians, the worst fascist group, worse than any fascist ever. And then it spread throughout the world. And so now there's young Turks, there's young everybody. And so there's young Americans. They tried that here. Then somebody said, hey, those are fascists. And so we're not going to use that name. So AOC stopped using that. So she was going to start here a fascist party. And now, look, she's going up and trying to get into the Senate and even take over the Senate. Well, this woman has already been caught with her assistant was an illegal alien. He's now skipped the country. She's still guilty for it. She paid him. Where's his I-9? Where's his naturalization papers? How in the world did you use taxpayer money to pay an illegal alien to be your fascist consultant, your terrorist consultant? Well, this is where we're at. In other words, all we need is, I've now raised the number up, we need 10,000 lawyers from the states to come to D.C., and if Trump can't do it through the Department of Justice, we need to have citizen-created grand juries using military tribunals. So we mix the military and civilians. We have a grand jury, and as you know, grand juries always find the person that they charge guilty. They don't even get to have representation in the court. And in the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, you can get a lawyer to represent you, and I've been in court in the military many times, and basically that person's not going to represent you. They don't let you speak. They tell you what you did wrong, don't ask you whether you plead guilty or not guilty, and put you in jail forever. They send you to Fort Dix. Believe me, I've seen it happen a lot. Can this happen? Yes, it can, because this is a war. Just like this war on the southern border is now bringing in heavy equipment and different social medias, Elon Musk, the satellites, Starlink and all that. They're going to be watching our border, okay? And so basically, when we have a secure border, southern and northern, and we stop allowing people to come in on visas, just stop all visas. Vet everyone who comes in, period. You know how many people have come in on a visa and stayed here? Millions and millions. You know how many people they chased down and kicked out? None that I know of. We're only now beginning to see 1 or 2 people that they're going after. Now, all these people being deported, remember, they're in jail. They're already in jail because they are murderers. They're fentanyl dealers. Please, it's like Boasberg basically saying he wants all the El Salvadorian gang members to be brought back. That's insanity. That alone is unconstitutional. That's treason. He's a war actor. and he needs to be not only disbarred but locked up. And now some of this is going to happen, but it won't happen quite that way. The way it probably will happen is through their associations. In other words, when we kick the Temple Bar out of America, because John Roberts and a bunch of other lawyers all have secret deals with the Temple Bar with England, that's what's going on. Why do you think John Roberts goes off to Malta to get paid? What did I just say about Malta? Insider trading. It's one of the most corrupt things on the face of the earth. It's the Vatican Bank has been using the Knights of Malta all the way back. Okay, so what we have here is John Roberts is a Knight of Malta. John Roberts is a war actor, and anyone like Sotomayor who makes public comments against the president, they have to be impeached. There's no such thing. They just threw out their neutrality, didn't they? And now we see that in almost every one of these cases, every one of these judges should have recused themselves because they are fighting for their wife's USAID money. That's what Boasberg's fighting for. That's what many of these people are fighting for. That's what John Roberts' Roberts is fighting for, his wife's theft from USAID. Every friggin' one of them has a gravy train. There's no such thing. For instance, how does AOC pay her impossible rent in D.C.? Remember when she took her office? She said she couldn't do it. It's not possible. And then she has an assistant and a big office and multiple offices and fancy clothes and fancy cars and drivers. And where'd that money come from? How about Chuck Schumer? They just found out. So when they do what they call fractal mapping to trace back the money, what's Schumer? What'd they say? 84 85 million. Joe Biden has 5 houses that are worth about $20 million if you put them together. I mean, he has these huge houses, right? And then they want to complain about Trump going out to golf. How about Joe Biden, who sat on the beach for most of his presidency? Didn't know where he was, who he was, what he was doing. Okay, so I'm tired of people not giving Trump a chance. Now, if he doesn't pan out, I'll be the first one to call him out on it. But if he keeps doing some of the things he's doing, they're in the right direction. So don't be worried. It's all about the future. And I'm going to say one more thing about this. When you hear that there's quantum computers, that there's going to be plasma reactors, that they're going to do all this miraculous stuff with technology, those are all demonic, disgusting lies. Those are false utopias based upon false predictions of technocracy taking over the world, of technology becoming so advanced that we have super AIs. No, we'll never have a super AI. We don't have an AI now, and we never will. A machine will never be able to think. There's no such thing. They have an intelligence, but that intelligence is limited by the programmer, period. No, they do not have the things that they tell you that they have. That's to scare the heck out of you so that you will be compliant and believe that technology is going to save the day. Did nuclear energy save the day like they promised? Did any technology, how about electric cars, did they save the day? Did any technology you've ever been told about, 5G, precision medicine, did any of that?
LED light bulbs.
LED light bulbs are killing people. They also can spy. I don't know why people don't know this. 4 or 5 years ago, the reason that they put LED light bulbs in all of your house and outlawed the other ones, because they can follow in on your electric line going into your house, go to your LED, and see you from it. They can actually read documents. If you take a lamp and with an LED bulb in it and you shine it on a document, so every house with any electric wire, and it doesn't have to be for a phone, every electric wire in your house gets. Matter of fact, I discovered this back in 1973, and we called it Canute. It was a top secret thing. You can heterodyne signals onto any electrical wire. So any electric wire in your house over a certain length can be used as a listening device in your house. LEDs can see everything in your house, and they can use your router, and this was just told to us a few days ago on the internet, and I went and searched it now, and it's true. Any router, they can go into your house, put a new software program in it where they can see every person in the house through the walls. Are you ready for that? The spying techniques are beyond anything you can possibly imagine. The weapons are beyond anything you can possibly imagine. And is anything stopping it? No, except for one thing. True spiritual action. Love. At some point, as you've seen in history, one single person can change history. Trump has changed American history, and it can happen again. And maybe you're the person who's going to change it because you're going to stand up and do something that affects the whole world. It only takes one person to change history, for good or ill. So if you have a good moral intent in your heart, you're the most powerful person on the earth, because morality is one of the most scarce substances on the face of the earth. And if you have morality and love, and you have good ideas that you can move towards the future that are not based upon the false premises of technology saving us with a new technological utopia, but you can say, no, let's look at consciousness. That's why I'm focused on plasma. Plasma is the answer to all of this. We don't need any of the technology we have. We could use plasma for almost all of it. Problem is, the only thing they focus on is weapons, or what they now call, there's a new name for this type of advanced medicine using plasma, cold fusion and cold plasma. That is the future. Is anyone using it? Is anyone talking about it? Have you heard about any of these things I'm telling you about? Do you know that they have weapons big enough that they can shoot the moon with a plasma ball that will actually cause an explosion on the moon that could break it up and crumble it to pieces? We had that in 1954, folks. So we have horrifying weapons. We have horrifying demonic possession of our leaders throughout the world. But if you have the Spirit of the Son in your heart, you have more power than all those people put together.